Shalom, shalom, mishpacha wahabarim. That means peace and blessings to the family and friends out there. What's up? It's your girl 916 Sean Sean. On my birth certificate, Sister Ashanti. Well, not the sister part, but Ashanti, right? And on Facebook, I am Shanti Doc. And you are listening to or joining in with our series, our Yahweh is Head of Household, Household of God series, and this is part six of the series, and it's titled Yahweh's Household Codes in Paul's Letters. And we're going to look at the different synopsis of what the word head means when you look at certain passages of the Pauline epistles, right? So I want to say all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High Yahweh for another blessed evening, another Shabbat, another time of rest where we can be close and draw nigh to the Most High Yahweh, to love on Him, to cling, to feel that compassion, love, grace, and mercy, and patience, and then give that out to the people, right? So right now it's me on the line, and then of course my brother BA. I'm gonna let my brother BA come in and say a few words, formally introduce himself, and then we'll get right into what we're going to bring out with part six of this lesson, this topic that we've been getting into for the past couple months. So without further ado, right, brother B to the Izay, Mr. Hammer and Sickle.
Greetings. Much love to all. I'm just glad to be here on the Sabbath. Much love to all those who are enjoying the Sabbath and those who don't keep the Sabbath. Much love to you as well. We're glad that you have decided to tap in with us for another good conversation about the head of household. We've talked about this once before, but we're going to go back over it again. And we're going to really, really bring out some information. Well, sis will be taking lead and I'll be assisting her. And all we ask is that be willing to listen and hear us out before you chime in and try to call us certain names or whatever it may be. We're only here to share information. We're not here to gang bang. We're not doing none of that. We're just here to share information and we have sources backing us up. So all we ask is if you disagree, that's fine. But prove the information that we're going to bring out to be inaccurate. And we can go from there and we'll deal with it accordingly. All right, sis, all you. Sis, you muted.
I gotta remember to unmute myself, right? But all praise to the Most High Yahweh BA for you being here, for you introducing yourself, for you to give a brief overview of what we're going to be looking into. And as with all of our lessons, we do want you to take any research material we bring out here, any evidence, articles, facts that we bring here. We want you to go back and fact check, do your due diligence, study to show yourself approved, and ask the Holy Spirit to lead, guide you into a sound conclusion. Right? May this provoke you to challenge your heart, mind, soul, and spirit to make sure it's in right line and right standing and right relationship with the Most High Yahweh. This is about a personal relationship. We are brothers and sisters in this walk. However, we want to make sure we support each other, encourage each other, build each other up, right? And hold each other accountable. So we've been getting into Yahweh as head of household. We talked about what the paterfamilias meant. We talked about uh, a little bit of first century AD, how Israel was influenced by the Greeks and now the Romans. Um, Learning how looking at certain facets of history, such as the social, political, religious, economic parameters, played a big part and a big role in and why the vernacular of the New Testament is as such. Looking at the parables of the Most High through Yeshua, how Yeshua talked about the fictive family, how we are to be a beacon of light as Israel to the nations, to the Gentile, bring them into the covenant fold of Yahweh through Yeshua, right? And we looked at how we were talking about how we are children of the Most High Yahweh in a house with Yahweh as the Father. And then if we are children, we are brothers and sisters, right? And we've also looked at dispelling a lot of the go on in so just a little bit more now here. It's not about being over men. This is about men being over the power or to the one and it's
Hey,
two.
sis, you breaking up real bad. I don't know if you can hear me, but yeah, real bad.
Yeah, maybe it's the internet over here on my end. You can hear me now pretty good. You're on mute.
It's a little better. It's still kind of choppy, but a little better.
It's still kind of choppy, huh? Okay, let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's do this. What about now?
Keep going.
Keep going. I'm good now.
Yeah, you better. That's best. That's
Okay.
much better.
Okay. What part did you what part did you last hear me clear on?
When you were just about to reiterate what I was saying.
Okay. Okay. So we talked a little bit about paterfamilias, what the head actually meant as estate owner, asset owner. The male could be the head of household, along with the woman could be the head of the household. And what that meant pretty much was the person who's legally responsible for the assets, the property, materials that each person in the house has. It doesn't necessarily mean leader, ruler, or authority. We're going to elaborate on that more today in this video. Also, we looked at how the influences of Greece and Rome influenced Israel to the point where they were wanting to lord over people and they wanted to have this societal hierarchy where you have, somebody on the top tier, somebody on the next tier, and they were saying, certain people who are on the bottom, they were second class, inferior, treated like dirt and things of that nature. We looked at that. And we also looked at how we are supposed to be in the household of the Most High Yahweh, as this series is called. Yahweh is the head of household, looking at first century AD household codes, right? Also, we looked at how Yeshua in the parables reiterated some things that were brought up from the law and the prophets, how we are the children of the Most High Yahweh, who is the Father, and we are supposed to be Israelites as a beacon of light to the nations, to the Gentiles, to bring them into the covenant fold of the Most High Yahweh through Yeshua. And as children, we are siblings, brothers and sisters, right? We looked at a lot of the fictive family metaphors, looking at being called father, looking at being called son, looking at being called children, brothers and sisters. And we dispelled a lot of the misogyny that seems to be in Paul's letters. However, we will reiterate that just a little bit more today in this video as we go along. We're going to take our time. We do have a lot to cover. However, I believe everyone who's been partaking in these lessons of series has been enjoying it. You haven't really been worried about the time, right? So, with that being said, I want to say all praise, all honor, all glory to the Most High Yahweh, right? This is not about women over men. This is not about men over women. This is about restoring proper balance to the Most High's family as was established in the foundation in Genesis 1 and 2. And we want to be able to provoke you to get restored, um, restored back in right relationship, back in the right line with the Most High Yahweh. This is a personal relationship, right? We're building up. one another, we're encouraging one another, we're uplifting one another, because that's what we're supposed to do as servants in the kingdom, right? The kingdom is the temple, temple is the house. The house. We are the people who make up the house, right? So we got a treat this evening. Shalom, everybody. Shalom, Sister Yahara. When you can make it in, go ahead and come in. Uh, Sister Joy Scales, Sister Marie, Shabbat Shalom. Hopefully, there's something here that encourages, lifts, and builds. Right. So let's see. Let's we're gonna before I really deep delve dive, my saying into this thing. Um, Disclaimers, more disclaimers. Did this video for a few reasons, right? Because you come into this Israelite walk, a lot of mistreatment of the women, that's being laid out, but we want to show that the Most High Yahweh is not a tyrant. The Most High Yahweh is a loving, compassionate Elohim, to the point where where He's a nurturing Father, right? Women are not supposed to follow somebody blindly and just give sex, silence, and submission, right? We're not supposed to impose a hatred or racism toward anybody of a different ethnicity or national background, right? We're supposed to look at them as human beings, humankind, and get them over to right standing, back into the proper relationship, because we're all human beings, right? We're all Adam. We're all male and female pair. We're all Adam, right? Um, this is about uh, restoring. It's about restoring, and this is not just about a lesson about women and trying to get rid of the misogyny. This is about learning proper functionality that the Most High Yahweh set forth in Genesis. Okay, this is about uh, this is about getting out of the Greco-Roman Western mindset, and we're laying out what is a Greco-Roman mindset so that you can begin to rip off that old man of the Greco-Roman mindset, right? This is also about not beating or forcing anybody to be obedient to the Most High. This is about a choice. The Most High gives us a choice, right? And we want to make sure we have a loving, compassionate demeanor with our brothers and sisters. Also showing grace and mercy and a little bit of patience, right? Have some patience. Treat others as we want others to treat us. If we don't want nobody forcing us to do something, beating us across the head, if we don't want somebody taking away our choice, then don't take away somebody else's choice. Because first of all, you didn't give them the ability to make a choice. The Most High Yahweh did, and it's the Most High Spirit who draws and convicts if that person is the sheep, right? Because if they're the sheep of the Most High Yahweh, they will hear the voice, and then they will come over into the kingdom and start acting upon the faith, conducting themselves, behaving themselves in a reverent manner that shows honor, right? Shows a high in integrity character that reflects the Most High's character, right? All right. I know that was a long disclaimer, but I had to do that. Shalom, Sister Katrina. Shalom, Mind of Joshua. Thank you for tuning in. All right. So we're going to talk about a lot of misinterpreted sections of the Pauline epistles, right? We're going to talk about a lot of misinterpreted text, and we're going to talk about what the word head means in a lot of these passages. And we're also going to look at head as it's rendered in the Septuagint, right? And I'm going to tell y'all right now, evidence is going to show, right, that head does not mean leader, ruler, or authority. Now, if there's somebody who says, hey, Shanti, we're going to correct you, bring an article, a scholarly
Yo, sis, Oh wow. Sis, you frozen real bad. You just froze up. I don't know if you can hear me. Uh, Shanti's having some technical difficulties. So give us a minute. Try to. Yeah, she's having some technical difficulties right now. She just sent me. So just be patient, uh, and we'll see what's up. But how is everybody this evening? Yeah, we got Joy Skills. I'm greeting. We have Sister Marie. What's the word, Sister Marie? Katrina Brown. I'm not familiar with you. Yes, I am. Just on Facebook. That's right. Oh, okay. There you go. There you go. You know what I'm
All
saying?
right, y'all still here?
Yeah, we here. Yeah, we got an audience.
Okay.
Everybody's still here. We wait. You know what I'm saying? He's waiting patiently. So it's all good.
You said we got an audience is waiting patiently. I want to apologize. My
Oh, it's
internet
all
tripping right now. Something I don't know.
yeah.
Okay. I check everything beforehand, and then here we go. But all right, all right. So we're gonna talk about what head means. Also, like I was saying, head does not mean leader, ruler, or authority. And if you're gonna correct us, most definitely we're not past correction. However, you got to bring us some scholarly accredited stuff, right?
Exactly.
So, all right. With that being said, cool. All right, all right. So, Sister Yahara, for you to get in, check the check the messenger, and there's the link, the personal link to get into the thing, the live video. So when you do have a chance, you go ahead, click that live, click that link in the messenger. You probably got a copy. You got to copy that link, then paste it in your internet browser. Remember, right? Okay, so there you are. Let's see. Let's bring you in. All right, it's Sister Yahara. If you're able to, sis, you can go ahead and introduce yourself. We having
Shalom,
all
everybody.
sorts of stuff tonight, huh? What
Oh,
is going on?
it's Extra Friday right now.
Man, go ahead, sis.
Extra Friday. Shalom, everyone. All praises to the Most High, God, for getting us through this week and for helping us to get through and make it to another Shabbat that's getting ready to come in here. I'm very excited for everything that Sis is bringing to the table. This is going to be phenomenal. This is coming around as a whole, and it's making sense. It's making a lot of sense. So I'm looking forward to finishing this off with a bang. Really, it's really good. So um, thanks again, sis, for bringing this out because man, this is something that we as a people we need to hear. We need to hear. So definitely. But shalom, everyone. Shabbat shalom to some of y'all.
Shabbat shalom. Yeah, sun going down in about 15, 20 minutes over here in Sacramento, California. So we're gonna get right into this thing. I apologize for the technical mishaps, but stay on the line and I'll be back. As you've seen, I came back. All right. So I know y'all want to get into it. So I know you guys know about Ephesians, Colossians, and Peter. right? Ephesians 5, Colossians 3, and First Peter chapter 2 and 3. A lot of those passages are used for like a standard household code that's to be followed by believers, but we want to examine if that's so. We want to make sure we're getting the proper gist of those New Testament texts, right? And I know you heard of the word egalitarian, right? So egalitarian, they believe sometimes that we're on equal plane, meaning that we, male and female, have the have the we have the same common goal. We have the same mandate to come together with our different gifts to make sure the honor and glory of the Most High Yahweh is is rendered here on earth. And then there are complementarians, right? Complementarians are the opposite. They think, there's biblical roles such for men and women, but sometimes they have to examine what those roles are. And sometimes the complementarians, they think that like the lordship, domination, infused patriarchy, they think that's there. But we're going to examine what type of egalitarianism is in the text, and we're going to look at if there are any remnants of complementarianism in these texts. Ephesians 5, Colossians 3, First Peter chapter 2 and chapter 3. But did the writers or the authors of these letters include a prescribed household code, right? Well, we have to look at these things. Patriarchy, as we noted before in the past videos, it was pretty much the father, the seed, determined the lineage, ethnicity, and nationality. That's what patriarchy was way before Julius, excuse me, Octavianus, Gaius Octavianus came in and infused lordship with it, right? Patriarchy dealt with the family relationship, right? But that's when pretty much after what is it 27 BCE, starting from then, patriarchy had infused in it lordship, rulership, domination, right? So the world of Greece and Rome, it was plagued with status and domination. Everything was about other people's opinions of you. Everything was about what was honorable to the community and the society that you lived in. If you did not do the things that your community deemed honorable, then you were shamed. You were looked at as an outsider. And also what other people viewed you as. That pretty much was your driving point for how you live life. And so status and domination, they were high on the totem pole for people to get into. It was a society where lordship over women was prevalent, and then also a lot of males trying to dominate other males, right? So you gain a status, and you gain a ranking in the status by how many people you could dominate, how many clients you had as a patron, right? So patriarchy is infused again with status, domination, lordship, rulership, and a lot of business and politics as well, right? So patriarchy, what's the opposite of patriarchy? Non-patriarchy. But we're going to talk about Yeshua again and Paul. Now, what was on the mind of Yeshua and Paul was not necessarily any institution of patriarchy, right? It was pretty much about people's being obsessed with status and domination, people being obsessed with the influences of the people around them and how they have this hierarchical structure of a caste system of status and domination. All right. So I'm gonna have Shalom, brother Eliah Israel. Thanks for coming on to the lesson here. I'm gonna have BA read one of the famous passages, Mark chapter 10. We're gonna do a lot of reading here.
All right, Mark chapter 10, and
Yep,
I'm
Mark
reading
chapter
from,
10. Go ahead. Sorry.
that's all right, verse 40, right? Pick up in the 40.
Let's see.
42.
Read. Let's start from verse 35 and read all the way to verse 45. So read verses 35 to 45. We're going to set this good foundation.
Most deaf. We're going to pick up Mark chapter 10 and verse 35. James, John, the sons of Zebedee, came forward to him and said to him, Teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask of you. And he said to them, What is it you want me to do for you? And they said to him, Grant us to sit at one's right hand and one at your left in your glory. But Jesus said to them, You do not know what you are asking. Are you able to drink the cup that I drink, or be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with? They replied, We are able. Then Jesus said to them, The cup that I drink you will drink, and with the baptism which I am baptized, you will be baptized. But to sit in my right hand or in my left hand is not mine to grant, but it is for those who it has been prepared. When the 10 heard this, they began to be angry with James and John. So Jesus called them and said to them, You know that among the Gentiles, those whom they recognize as their rulers lord it over them, and their great ones are tyrants over them. But it is not so among you. But whosoever wishes to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wishes to be first must be a slave of all. For the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life for a ransom for many.
Right. So pretty much um the sons of Zebedee, right? They said, "We want to sit on your right, we want to sit on your left." Pretty much we want this status of power, domination, lordship, and control over the people. It was an obsession with that. The Most High said, This is the attitude that's not supposed to be among you. You're supposed to be a servant. You're given these gifts by the Most High Yahweh to serve one another. What was the duty of priest? The first priest, Adam, the male and female pair. But the male and the female, they were the initial priests, right? To do what? Serve and keep or guard.
Abad,
Abad and shamar. Serve
Abad
and
Shema.
serve and guard, right? So Yeshua is saying here, look, if you want to get some status, especially in the Most High's kingdom, you gotta humble yourself. The way to get elevated is to humble yourself,
Exactly.
right? So, um, in the Israelite walk, the people who started to believe, right? The Israelites, the bloodline, and the converts, right? They were started to get more recognition in these Roman colonial lands, right? So a lot of people saw this newfound faith. It consisted of men and women, free people, who used to be slaves. You right? They're all fellowshipping, worshiping together. They all have different status, right? So you have different ethnicities and nationalities coming together under one house, one common goal, and that's to have the Most High Yahweh's name honored here in earth, right? So if you think about that, with this Greco-Roman society here, right? Uh, we have to be careful because this type of faction, it looks as if it looks like it just goes against the grain and slaps the Greco-Roman society in its face, right? Um, we have to be mindful of the mission. We have to be mindful not to have our faith discredited. So the way we navigate and move in this society has to be very very careful, right? We cannot use our freedom for taking advantage of just um, taking advantage of what we know now of our full rights as joint heirs in this kingdom, right? So it's a newfound faith of choice, right? And you have a mission. You have a mission to advance the kingdom of the Most High Yahweh, right? And we have a great responsibility, a great responsibility uh, to each other and to the people around us, right? Uh, so, New Testament household codes, right?
Sis, this what
Go
got
ahead.
me was when I was reading this and realized how much influence this Arius guy had on the Greco-Roman Empire alone. Just like this guy was like influencing, and his ways of looking at things were so demented, and it just how it spun out into how today things are viewed.
Okay,
It's
break it
insane.
down. Break it down. Who's
So
Arius? Go ahead. Break it
Arius,
down.
okay, so Arius, this guy, he spoke for and influenced a lot of men in the Greco-Roman Empire. Okay, his thoughts of women were that what was it? He said that women, because of women's sin, we all die, and better is a wickedness of a man than the goodness of a woman. And I was just like, what? Just his view alone, like really? So basically, a man can do the wickedness of a man. It's better for him to have wickedness rather than the goodness of a woman. And his
Right.
thoughts influence all of society.
Right. This
That's pretty
society.
sickening.
You talking
Yeah.
about you talking about Arius Didymus, who got
Yes.
from Aristotle's Politics and wrote them up for Octavius, um,
Yes.
Gaius Octavianus, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
This
Yeah.
guy, I was just blown away as I was reading this, and he had such a negative impact on the views of women that the story, like as I was reading, it influenced the Eve story and associated her sin with death and suffering.
What do you mean by influence the Eve story?
Well, okay, so when I was reading it, it said that such a negative impact on the views of women. Well, it said that it had such a heavy influence. What his thoughts were in
Break
that
it down.
era, that
Break
on
it
the
down.
views. Okay, so as I was reading, I
I
had to
mean,
take notes as I was reading this.
you coming on in. I'm like, well, come on in
Well,
then. I mean, break it down for the people.
look, I got my
Because
notes. I know it looks crazy, but I got my notes. I was
no,
writing
no
this because
doubt, no doubt, no
I
doubt.
was just so blown away.
So let me ask you this:
Hmm.
were you talking about Arius Didymus when he influenced the some of the Jewish sages and rabbis, and if so, what portion of the Pauline epistles seem to have been influenced by this guy Arius Didymus? You know what I mean?
I want to say it was actually, what was his name? Goodness. He actually had, was it, gosh, not, I don't know why the name Caesar's coming to mind right now. Jesus. Uh, I forgot his name. I forgot his name. I really did.
Okay,
Oh,
well,
this is gonna blow my mind.
well, check this. Look for that. Look for that.
Yes, I will get back to you.
No,
Definitely.
look for that. And when you got that, come back in, break it on
Mhm.
down.
Will do.
All right. So remember in this in some of the writings of Paul, especially Ephesians, Colossians, and First Peter, right? There's an exhibition of a new created kingdom of ethos without creating obstacles, right? Getting in the way for this newfound family in the kingdom to flourish and thrive, right? So in First Peter, right? Uh, the author in First Peter chapter 5 verse 12 writes with the help of Silas, right? Silas. Let me read that real quick. I'm doing the flip like BA real quick.
BA flip.
Yeah, the BA flip. The BA flip. I'm trying to get to First Peter. I'm getting to everything else except that. Okay, here we go. First Peter chapter 5. Let me read it. Verse 12. This is from the scriptures ISR. It says, through Silas, the trustworthy brother, as I reckon, I have written to you briefly, encouraging and witnessing that this is the true favor of Elohim. In this stand fast. Right? But let me read verse 13. Watch this. So this is First Peter chapter 5, verse 13. We're continuing. She who was in Babel, chosen together with you, greets you. Also, my son Marcos. Says she who was in Babel. Babel is short for what? Babylon, right? So Babylon, this is a euphemism pretty much for Rome. And so this suggests that the letter here was written sometime after Peter's death, maybe in the late 60s CE or AD, right? So when somebody says, oh, America is Babylon, well, in this day and age right here, after 60 AD, right? Between that time and 70 AD, Rome was being called Babylon, right? So let's see. Just give you a little bit of background about First Peter, right? First Peter chapter 1, verse 1, it says, Kepha, Peter, an emissary or an apostle of Yeshua Messiah, to the chosen strangers of the dispersion in Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, and Bithynia, right? So this is an exhortation letter, right? This is an exhortation letter. This is probably the time during Nero's persecution, right? So just to give you a little backdrop, right? So Peter was exhorting what? The people to have one heart and one mind, right? So I'm gonna have somebody read First
Let me
Peter.
just
Go ahead. Go ahead.
verse. I just want to make a point real quick in First Peter chapter 5. If you notice the language that Peter uses when you go back to chapter verse, I mean the same chapter but verse 1. You know what I'm saying? About lording. Brothers and sisters do not lord over each other. Brothers and sisters are on the same level. You know what I'm saying? They're equals, counterparts, but they're equals. There is no one over the other. And I just want to point some things out real quick if you don't mind. You know what I'm saying? Let's go to chapter 5,
Break
verse
it on
1.
down. This gonna be called the break it on down segment. You know what I mean? When we come on
Most
in, we're
there.
gonna break it on down. Go ahead, man.
Most there. Now as an elder, myself a witness of the sufferings of Christ, as well as one who shares in the glory to be revealed. I exhort the elders among you to tend to the flock of God that is in your charge, exercising the oversight not under compulsion, but willingly as God would have you to do it, not for sordid gain, but eagerly. Do not lord it over those in your charge, but be examples to the flock. And when the chief shepherd appears, you will win the crown of glory that will never fade away. In the same way, you are in younger must accept the authority of the elders, and all of you must clothe yourselves with humility in your dealings with one another. God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, so that he may exalt you in due time. I just want to read that real quick. It's very key. And as you can see overall, Peter's point, there's positions to be played. Elders, youth. He's not saying that the elders are to have authority to lord over the youth, but to guide them. He say, be willing to do it. Be eager to do it. Be hungry. Be humble. Not to dominate and come in and tell a person, "Oh, I've been doing this for so long, and you're supposed to listen to me." No, you're supposed to make yourself available to the people. See, this is the difference between Christ and or the believers of that time and this time period. We are Hellenized people. We're Hellenized. We know what the slave master, what the imperial lords have taught us. We don't know the way of the Most High. We don't know what the covenant looks like. We're still trying to come into an understanding and know what it looks like. Look at Christ. Why did the people did not recognize Christ? Because Israel did not keep the covenant. So this individual, this person who was a brother who came looking like them, who was one of them, came and introduced something new. It was new to them because they did not recognize the covenant. That's why they didn't recognize him. They don't know what it means to keep the covenant. They did not know. Even to this day, we still don't know what it means to keep the covenant. So we have Christ, who is our example to show us what it means to understand and to comprehend what the covenant and what it brings to the table. And with that, that's all I want to say.
That's all you want to say for now. This get a little hot. This get lit. The fire's going. All right. Praise the Most High Yahweh VA. All right. Keep that same fire. I'm gonna have you read First Peter, chapter 2. Let's see. I'm gonna have you read First Peter, chapter 2. Um, start at verse 6. Read all the way to verse 9. You on mute. And
Verse chap
Shalom, brother Lynn Dog. How you doing? Thank you for joining in. Go ahead, BA.
For it stands in Scripture, "See, I am laying in Zion a stone, a cornerstone, chosen and precious, and whomever believes in him will not be put to shame. To you then who believe, he is precious. But to those who do not believe, the stone that the builders rejected has become the very head of the corner, and the stone that makes them stumble, and a rock that makes them fall. They stumble because they disobey the word, as they were destined to do. But you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's own people, in order that you may proclaim the mighty acts of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light." Keep going.
That's it. All right. So pretty much, remember, we in this temple were actually the living stones of the temple, right? We're the living stones. We're part of this priesthood. We offer up these sacrifices for whom we are intermediaries, mediating on the behalf of the world, right? So this is setting the stage for pretty much getting into the household code, Yahweh's household codes, right? That are going to take place in the next few verses, and then to chapter 3. So I'm gonna have you continue to read, BA. Um, continue to read. So we're gonna read verses 10. Actually, start from verse 11. So First Peter chapter 2, verse 11. Read all the way to chapter 3. All of chapter 3. Yeah, we're gonna read all of that.
All right, verse 11 in Peter chapter 2. "Beloved, I urge you as aliens and exile to abstain from the desires of the flesh that wage war against the soul. Conduct yourselves honorably." Hold on. Okay, can you guys still? I'm sorry about that. "Conduct yourselves honorably amongst the Gentiles, so that through they align you as evildoers, they may see your honorable deeds and glorify God when he comes to judge. For the Lord's sake, accept the authority of every human institution, whether of imperior as supreme, or of governors sent by him to punish." Let's keep going. Let's see. "Those who do wrong, and to praise those who do right. For it is God's will, by doing right, you should silence the ignorance of the foolish. As servants of God, as live as free people, yet do not use your freedom as a pretext for evil. Honor everyone, Love the family of believers. Fear God, honor the emperor. Slaves, accept authority of your masters with all difference, not only those who are kind and gentle, but also those who are harsh. For it is a
Pause.
credit.
I'm gonna pause you, right? So I'm just gonna pause you every now and
Yeah,
then while you're reading this, BA. But these are citizens of a kingdom to come, right? These are
exactly.
these are people who are free, who have a choice to accept authority of human institutions, right?
Exactly.
So this is about the strategy or the tactic to accomplish this mission, right?
Yep. Because you
All
know
right.
what's important? Because you know what's important? Just
Mm-hmm.
to let's go back to and let's see verse 9. Because check this out. But you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's own people, in order that you may proclaim the mighty acts of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. Priests are servants. So that's why we see the word slave or servants. You got to understand the context because a lot of our people, when they go here, oh, he telling us to be slaves and bow down and yes, sir. No, that's the problem. Read. Stop talking and just read what the message. Understand the language that the apostles are speaking in the letters. It's very simple, but I just want to say that real quick.
Yep. And okay, go ahead and continue.
Verse 19. For it is a credit to you if being aware of God, you endure pain while suffering by suffering unjustly. If you endure when you are beaten for doing wrong, what credit is that? But if you endure when you do right and suffer for it, you have God's approval. For to you have been called, because Christ also suffered for you, leaving you an example so that you should follow in his steps. He committed no sin, no deceit was found in him. Was found in his mouth. When he was abused, he did not return abuse. When he suffered, he did not threaten. I'm sorry, he did not threaten, but he entrusted himself to be one who judges justly. He himself bore our sins in his body on the cross, so that free from sins we might live for righteousness. By his wounds you have been healed. For you were, you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, for you were going astray like sheep, but now you have returned to the shepherd and guardian of your soul.
Pause.
Guardian of your
Pause.
souls.
Guardian of your soul. So this is not being now. Well, let me say this: the Greco-Roman philosophers' household codes, they were not addressed to women and slaves. They were addressed to the pater familias. They were addressed to um, the head of the household, the male head of the household, as the Greeks and the Romans defined it. Right? They like I said, they infused the pater familias with having this lordship, rulership, domination, and control. Right? But here we gonna start to see that Peter, when he's writing Yahweh's household codes, he's not talking to the paterfamilias. He's talking to who? The slaves, and then to the women, right? So this is a characteristics of a Israelite household code, and it's forsaking the social hierarchical household code of the Greeks and the Romans, right? All right, keep going, BA.
All right, let's go to Peter chapter 3. And remember, just to say this real quick, you got to remember, the Most High is turning the man's social structure upside down.
Right,
This is what we have to realize. We could also read in material like the Communist Manifesto when Karl Marx said the same thing. Now, we're not giving no credit to Karl Marx. What we're saying is that when a new system is implemented, the old has to go away. When Karl Marx said that the family structure as we know it, based on the terms of society, will be done away with, people take that out of context and say, oh, he's against the family. No, he's against the social structure and how the family has been manipulated to look a certain way. That's what he's talking about. Same thing with the Most High here. The way that this paterfamilias, this got to go. This head of household concept is got to go. But we're going to keep going. Peter chapter 3. Wives, in the same way, accept the authority of your husbands, so that even if some of them do not obey the word, they may be won over without a word by their wives' conduct, her behavior. Mm. Let's keep going. When they see the purity and reverence of our lives, do not adorn yourselves outwardly, but braiding your hair. I'm sorry, by braiding your hair and by wearing gold ornaments or fine clothing. Rather, let your adornments be the inner self with the lasting beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is very precious in God's sight. It was in this way long ago that the holy woman who hoped in God used to adorn themselves by accepting the authorities of their husbands. Thus Sarah obeyed Abraham and called him Lord. I'm not gonna get into that. That's a whole nother conversation. You have become her daughters as long as you do what is good and never let fears alarm you. Husbands, in the same way, show consideration for your wives and your life together. Paying honor to the woman as the weaker sex. And we also know that word in the Greek means precious, but that's a whole nother concept. Let's keep going. Since they are two, I'm sorry, since they are two, are also heirs of the gracious gift of life, so that nothing may hinder your prayers. Finally,
Okay,
all of you,
pause, pause, pause. Is that the were you going into verse 8?
yes,
Okay, pause at verse 7. What translation are you reading?
I'm reading from the Greek interlinear version. It's
Greek Greek
Greek interlinear
interlinear.
version.
Okay, okay. Now, I know verse 6 says, as Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him master.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm
Yeah,
gonna say
we know a
something
lot
about
of
that.
people. Yeah, they take that and run with that. Yeah, I know.
Well, what would you take that to? What would you take that to mean, BA?
A lot of brothers. Well, I'm gonna say from what I've heard, they people use this to say you supposed to call me Lord. You supposed to bow down and obey me.
Okay.
But when I read this, I'm looking at this in the sense out of respect because you got to see. This is why I say this. I'm gonna say, look, you got to go back and what the letter says. Go back to verse 1. Wives, in the same way, accept the authority of your husband, not in the sense to where he's lording over you, but respect his position and what he has, what has been given to him from who? The Most High God, not from the paterfamilias, not from the head of household. Respect the authority which was given to him from the Most High. Which and who's the best example? Christ shows us the best. He's the best example. He shows us what does that mean. But you're about to say something?
Yeah, that translation. What's you said that was First Peter chapter 3 verse 1. It says
Yes.
accept the authority. Okay, it says be subject to, but that word be subject to that actually implies a choice. So this is why I'm asking these questions about the translations and what you have heard a word to mean or what do you know a word to mean. So this is what I'll say here, and I'm gonna have you continue. Be subject to is not obey the authority. It it don't say authority there. So this is why you got to go back and check translation because the Greek says one thing, but then that English translation it'll tell you another. While BA's reading, I'll pull that up here, and this is straight Greek. Let me see this. We're gonna take our time with this tonight, but this is just straight Greek. And then for verse 6, it says Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him master. And I asked BA, BA said, well, I've heard these things, but let's go back. And then, but check this out. Go back to Sarah. Where did Sarah call Abraham Lord or master? What did it mean? The word there is Baal, and it meant husband. She called
Exactly.
him
Yeah,
her husband.
exactly. And we
Go
also
ahead.
we
Go ahead.
know Baal at times can mean Lord, but that doesn't mean that she was calling him like to be superior over her, like, oh, master, oh, Lord Abraham. No, no. Let's stop with like we keep saying. There's nothing here that Peter is writing about lording over anybody. But that's the first thing that we are taught to believe. oh, that means the woman is supposed to just be quiet and you're supposed to be over her. She's supposed to be calling you a certain name. She's supposed to call you master or lord. You know what I'm saying? So we can see when we read into the text here, we see that we're reading with other people's eyes. That's exactly what I see. And that's the problem. But I wanna let's just keep going though.
Well,
Um
pause. I'll pause you for a reason though, because I need to elaborate. So
yeah,
this, and then I'm gonna have you continue, because I had you stop at verse 7, right? First
yeah,
Peter chapter 3, verse 7. Okay.
yeah,
So this this mission, if you will, this newfound faith that a lot of people are having, right? It was appealing, right, to Greek women of influence, right? And so some women, right, what do? They come to this newfound faith without their husbands. So if a woman, say for example, was it Lydia? If a woman comes and converts um, her and her household to the non-traditional way the Romans looked at things, then it challenges the Roman hierarchy, and the status system is being threatened to the
social
influential
structure.
men. Yeah, to the influential men in the empire. So um, Paul, when he says accept authority, why? Is it because of creation order? Is it because of a ordained hierarchy? Not at all. It's so that even some of them, if some of the men, if they don't obey the word, then they could be won over by the conduct and the behavior of the wives when they see
Exactly.
how they live their lives and how they show reverence in this newfound faith. So this voluntary submission here is not conforming to a prescribed order, but
Yeah.
it's responding to the mission. And so, like the servants, you limit your freedom to give evidence for this newfound faith you have. This is to win over your husband who may not necessarily be in the faith. And so, when it talks about when Peter talks about Abraham and Sarah, how they had this relationship, hey, she understood that was her husband. You,
Exactly.
you know what I mean? And if you want
Ex-
to win somebody over, you have to be careful of how you conduct yourself or behave yourself. So, but it does. What BA read in verse 7, it does tell the husbands to honor their wives, and there's nothing here, like BA reiterated. There's nothing here that says men rule over your wives. It's not here. It's missing. It's void. It's absent. So this is about, again, what? The fictive family, and it's pretty much um undermining the societal's norm of domination of wives through status.
Exactly. And that's what we see here. That's why we stress from the beginning of the letter. Notice how we are to be servants or to be slaves, or not in the sense of the Western thought. We're talking about the way of the Most High, to be servants. So wives are to be servants. Husbands are to be servants. It's vice versa, nonstop. But let's keep going. Verse 7.
But hold on real quick. But it's just realizing the mission that you're on, so you can, so it'll be. It wasn't so much as, I guess, being ruled over in that society in that time frame. It was more of realizing that you have a greater mission, that you are trying to glorify the Most High. So in order, so you kind of fall in line when you're
Play your position.
right. Thank you. Play your position for the betterment, because you realize, because you're coming, because you realize the time, you realize that you're glorifying a world that can't be seen, so to speak. I don't know if you understand what I mean by that. So if people are following the Most High, or they're following Yeshua, and they understand the mission or the purpose, or how it's supposed, things are supposed to be set up, then you realize that you're in a world that's not functioning properly. So for that world not functioning properly, it's like, I actually, when I was actually reading through it, I actually what came to my mind, and Sean, you know that when I get pictures in my mind, so it's like a pyramid. So the way that things are looked at, operating in this world, is like a pyramid. The top is where that paterfamilias is at, and everything beneath that, the woman, the child, and the servant beneath that, that's what's kept underneath and has no reverence. But in following Yeshua, he wants to flip that upside down, and the who's ever considered to be at the bottom is at the top. You must come in servitude. So in understanding that mission, they understand that they understood that structure of how everything was supposed to function. So they have to, again, like BA said, play their part for the benefit of the kingdom. So that's what I was getting
Exactly.
out of the whole thing.
Because the social structure teaches you me. It's all about me. The Most
Right,
High's kingdom is not of like that. It is not of this world. It has
right,
nothing to do with the Most High. So I mean, the kingdom of the Most High has everything to do about Him. But now I got sidetracked. I got tongue tied. But my point overall here is that, like you just said, this to land back. It's about um, making yourself available to what the Most High has planned for His kingdom and His social structure.
right.
Yeah. But keep reading. All right, verse 7. Husbands, in the same way, show consideration for your wives and your life together, paying honor to the woman as the weaker sex, since they are also heirs of the gracious gift of life, so that nothing may hinder your prayers. Finally, all of you have unity of spirit, sympathy, love for one another, a tender heart, and a humble mind. Do not repay evil for evil or abuse for abuse, but on the contrary, repay with a blessing. It is for this that you were called, that you might inherit a blessing. For those who desire life, and desire to see good days, let them keep their tongues from evil and their lips from speaking deceit. Let them turn away from evil and do good. Let them seek peace and pursue it. For the eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and his ears are open to their prayer. But the face of the Lord is against those who do evil. Do now who will harm you if you are eager to do what is good. But if you do suffer for doing what is right, you are blessed. Do not fear what they fear, and do not be intimidated. But it is in your I'm sorry, but in your heart sanctify Christ as Lord. Always be ready to make your defense to anyone who demands from you an accounting for the hope that is in you, yet do it with gentleness and reverence. Keep your conscience clear so that when you are maligned, maligned, those who abuse you for your good conduct in Christ may be put to shame. For it is better to suffer for doing good, if suffer should be God's will, than to suffer for doing evil. For Christ also suffered for sins once for all, the righteous for the unrighteous, in order to bring you to God. He was put to death in the flesh, but made alive in the spirit, in which also he went and made proclamation to the spirits in prison, who in former times did not obey, when God waited patiently in the days of Noah during the building of the ark, in which a few, that is, 8 persons, are saved through water, and baptism, which is prefigured, now saves you, now as a removal of dirt from the body, but as an appeal to God for good conscience through the resurrection of Yeshua the Christ, who has gone into heaven and is at the right hand of God, with angels, authorities, and powers made subject to him.
All right. So pretty much it's saying that during this newfound faith, you're gonna, face these trials, but the Most High is gonna see you through these trials. You know, you got to endure this persecution. You got to endure being talked about. You got to endure being called the outcast of the social structure. Why? Don't take offense to it. It's that your conduct, your behavior might be a transforming influence for the Most High Yahweh, right? In the last two chapters of First Peter 4 and then 5, um, this is about exhorting to live a set apart life, right, towards one another, and then by seeing your good works and your conduct, people are you're going to be example to the people, um, they might laugh at you at first. They might make fun of you, pick, poke, and prod, but pretty much they're gonna see that you're a peculiar people, that you're steadfast and unmovable. You have this trust and this faith, and then you win them over, right? You win them over. But check this out. I want to say something here. What we read, right? What we read, we see here that this household code of Yahweh here in Peter, it's not based on a desire to protect the social order or gain conformity, right, to that society. And there is not anywhere where the head or the paterfamilias is told to rule the house. And then members of the house, like the women and the slaves, what are they treated as? They're treated as free people who have the ability to choose how to conduct themselves within the household. Now, I do want to reiterate, I'm going to talk about this word later, but First Peter chapter 3, verse 1, where the translation BA read said, be under the authority. It doesn't say authority because the Greek word for authority is either arche or exousia, right? But the word arche or exousia is not here in First Peter chapter 3, verse 1. The word is hupotasso. Hupotasso. If I can, you probably can't see it here, but it's under my middle finger right there. Hupotasso. That word means be subject to. That means you have a voluntary will. You have a choice to do that, and we're going to talk about that a little later on. So this is why I go back to the Greek all the time. This is why I go back and look at textual criticism, see what words were added after the 16th century AD to fit an agenda. I look at 3rd and 4th century AD papyri when I'm looking at the New Testament manuscripts. Okay. All right. So this letter that Peter was pretty much given to the chosen, the strangers, right? It's about living a certain life of looking upon yourself, looking at others, treating each other with dignity and class, and getting away from the status and domination of the Roman society that they were living in, even though they might be persecuted. You know, all right. So I know, I know the head's gonna come from me here, but people who insist that women just blindly subordinate themselves from this passage, they're doing a lot of damage. They're not doing the Hebraic culture. They're doing the Greco-Roman culture, right? And when you try to suppress women and just tell women to just blindly follow you, you prevent people from wanting to hear the good news. You prevent people from seeing or experiencing the newfound freedom they have in the Torah, in the Most High Yahweh through His Son Yeshua. Right? Now we're gonna look at Titus. Or before I look at Titus, anybody have anything to add before I move on?
Well, go right ahead, sis.
All right. So Titus, this is written by Paul to Titus, who is in Crete, right? And the main focus of this letter is that there's some people teaching some incorrect doctrine, and this letter is an instruction to an instructor on how to guide the community, right? To live holy, set apart lives, right? So we're going to look at the household code here. Let's see. Titus. Anybody want to get Titus? If not, I can read it.
No, I got it. It's good.
You got it? All right. So Titus chapter 1, verses 1 to 4.
Titus chapter 1, verse 1. Paul, a servant. You see that key word? A
Oh, sir.
servant of God, an apostle of Jesus Christ, for the sake of the faith of God's elect and the knowledge of the truth that is in accordance with godliness. in the hope of eternal life that God, who never lies, promised before the ages began. In due time, he revealed his word through the proclamation with which I have been entrusted by the command of God our Savior. Excuse me.
Get your yarn out first, though.
Yeah. To Titus, my loyal child, in faith we share. Grace and peace from God the Father and Christ our Savior.
All right. So that was Titus chapter 1, verses 1 to 4. All right. Now, that was the premise that Paul is giving to Titus. That's the premise, right? But check this. Titus is the teacher, right? He has four groups of people that he got to instruct. There's older men, older women, younger women, and younger men. And so check this out. It was social taboo for a man to teach young women, especially unmarried women. Now you can go back and fact check this information that I'm giving you, right? So therefore, instruction for younger women fell upon elder women. Let me say that again. Instruction for younger women fell upon who? The older women. There's no prohibition, right? There was no restriction of women teaching men implied in this passage. But the implied restriction is on the men teaching young women and thus bringing scandal. It can bring shame upon the community. Somebody wanted to say something.
No, I was just gonna say, uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Okay. So I'm gonna have brother P. Yeah, I know they're gonna come from my head, but I got everything to back this up. Pretty much read Titus chapter 2. Um let's see. Read all of chapter 2. Yeah, read all of chapter 2. This is good.
Titus chapter 2,
Mhm.
verse 1. But as for you, teach what is consistent with sound doctrine. Tell the older men to be temperate, serious, prudent, and sound in faith, and love and endurance. Likewise, tell the oh sorry. Likewise, tell the older women to be reverent in behavior, not to be slanderers or slaves to drink. They are to teach what is good, so that they may encourage the young women to love their husbands, to love their children, to be self controlled, chaste, good managers of the household, kind, being submissive to their husbands, so that the word of God may not be discredited. Likewise, urge the younger men to be self controlled. Show yourselves in all respects a model of good works. In your teaching, show integrity, gravity, and sound speech that cannot be censored. Then any opponent will be put to shame, having nothing evil to say of us. Tell slaves to be submissive to their masters and to give satisfaction in every respect. They are not to talk back, not a pilfer, but to show complete and perfect fidelity, so that in everything they may be an ornament to the doctrine of God, our Savior. For the grace of God has appeared, bringing salvation to all, training us to renounce impiety and worldly passions, in the present age to live lives that are self controlled, upright, and godly, while we wait for the blessed hope and the manifestation of the glory of our great God and Savior, Jesus Christ. He it is who gave himself for us that he might redeem us from all iniquity and purify for himself a people of his own who are zealous for good deeds. Declaring these things, exhort and reprove with all authority. Let no one look down on you. Mm.
All right. So um there is there's a desire here, there's a will to avoid scandalous behavior, right? As Paul is instructing Titus here, right? And this is about what? The older women teaching the younger women. Why? Is this has something to do with Eve being created second, or just like a secretary assistant? Or is this because women are more or easily manipulated or easily deceived? No, this is about the word of the Most High going forth with credibility, and that the young men, they conduct themselves in a orderly fashion, so that any opponent is put to shame, and not having anything bad to say about the people in this newfound faith. It's saying, hey, servants, be subject to your masters and respect them. Don't talk back, but but show some integrity. Why? So your behavior will be seen to give validity to a credible teaching, who it comes from, a credible father, a credible deity, a credible Elohim, and the newfound creation or the newfound faith, right? So in verse 5, in Titus 2, verse 5, it says to be sensible, blameless workers at home, good, subject to their own husbands, in order that the word of Elohim is not evil spoken of, right? Telling the older women to teach this to the younger women, right? When it says care for the house, be guides, take care of the domestic affairs. But it also says being hupotasamenas, excuse me, hupotasamenas. That means willfully subject. You have a choice. That comes from the word hupotasso, right? That indicates somebody who chooses again to do something for somebody, right? So in the newfound faith, there's a choice. But guess what? In the Greco-Roman household, if you were a woman, you were a slave. You didn't choose. You didn't have that ability or right to choose. You were just already there in a lower, inferior status, right? So we see Yahweh's household codes here in Titus, but they differ in that it's an instruction to an instructor, right? But it also differs. This household code of Yahweh, it differs from the Greco-Roman state, in that it gives the rights of the Most High Yahweh given to the one woman and the slave. It takes them out of their inferior status. So once again, we don't see anywhere here where we see a head or a paterfamilias ruling the household. We don't see that here, right? So again, this is to forsake the culture that they're around, which is the Roman colonial land, right? Stop trying to be obsessed with a culture that seeks status and domination. No, you don't get your status from dominating people, lording over people, controlling people. You get your status from humbling yourself, being obedient to the Most High Yahweh when you come into this newfound fold, when you come into this newfound family, when you come into the household of the Most High Yahweh. That's where you get your status from. Now, I keep talking about this word head. We're going to go to a little bit about head, right? Now, head, kephale. Kephale is the Greek word head here. And I'm going to say head does not mean leader, ruler, or authority. You come here to the first century AD Greek definitions of words, Liddell Scott Jones. We've done this before. We brought that out before. We're just elaborating on some other things here. But a whole theology don't come up off this one word, kephale, meaning head, right? And so what do we see? We see like people from the 20th and 21st century AD superimposing our culture's definition of a word back onto the text. And so when we see head in the text, what do we say? Oh, that means leader, ruler, or authority. Not so. Not so. And again, I got to say this. I know I'm going to get called a feminist. And I know a lot of people don't understand what the word feminist is. I'm going to tell you right now, if you are a man and you marry or you have a significant other and she works and you guys live off of the money that she makes, a certain lifestyle, then you're a feminist. Because that's what feminists mean. A woman's
Uh
ability to go to
oh.
work. A woman's ability to go to work,
Uh
right? A woman's
oh.
a woman's ability or right to get paid what she's supposed to get paid according to the title of that job, right? I know BA said, uh-oh.
And I've been called a feminist because I have no issue with sisters speaking, but I get called a feminist.
Yeah,
Wow. Ain't
right.
that something?
Misconstruing what the word actually means, right? I'm telling you right now, BA and Sister Yahara been to my house. There is a certain lifestyle Ashanti lives, right? So me being able to go to work lets my husband enjoy the
Provides that grill.
lifestyle that he wants to live.
How's
Let me
that grill
say that.
coming?
It's clean. It's clean. You know, the grill is clean. See, Sister Yahara know what's up. But yeah, so the whole head authority leader thing has come up all the time when we see this word, but there's different Greek words to mean different things. So we're going to talk about that. So this whole headship theology has come up around this word, kafale, meaning head, right? And some who think the word means like lord, ruler, or authority, they deem they deem it to mean some sort of soft patriarchy where there's like a servant leadership, but they don't think it's supposed to be anything dominating of any sort, right? But like I said, this is not about women over men. This is not about men over women. This is about creating proper balance and making sure you get provoked to go back and look up proper definitions of words in their context, in their time frame, right? But check this out. So anybody who looks at the word head in Paul's letters, right? If you think that there is some sort of patriarchy, lordship, control, ruler, or authority infused with this word head, well, this is not unreasonable to interpret it that way if we rely upon our Western thought of what the metaphor head means. So when it says, or when the church teaches that the husband is to be in authority over his wife as the Messiah's in authority over the church, well, check this out. Remember what I said. I just said that this is not an unreasonable interpretation if we rely upon our Western mindset and thought for what the word head means. If so, guess what? We should not do when we read these texts here. We should not rely upon our Western mindset thinking when we read the text. This text was not written in the 20 or 21st century AD, right? So would people who have spoke Koine Greek in this time frame had the same understanding as we do about what head mean? Well, no. And I stand on that.
You know, I just want to say this in the words of the anti-missionary. But if the New Testament is written in Greek,
Yeah, the New Testament was written in Greek because why? During the 3rd and 2nd century BCE, the prophecy that Daniel rendered that Antiochus Epiphanes would come in and what influence the people, and some of the Greek culture, some of the facets would be having an influence on the people. So much to the point, yeah, it had an influence on Israel. There were some Greek speaking Israelites or Greek speaking Jews. That's who you see as being referred to as the Greeks in the renewed covenant. When it says Greek, that means they were Greek speaking Israelites or Greek speaking Jews. All right. So we over here in America, we think of head and heart as being like rational and emotional, right? In the Greek world, though, rational thought, emotions, they came from the heart. Now, BA, I want you to read for me, or if somebody can read for me, Revelations chapter 2, verse 23.
If I get to it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, verse 23,
Yep.
Revelation chapter 2. We're going to pick it up at verse 23. And I will strike her children dead, and all the churches will know that I am the one who searches minds and hearts, and I will give to each of you as your works deserve.
All right. So in the Greek here, it says, erunon nephras kai cardias, searching kidneys and hearts. Nephros is kidneys, cardias is heart. Nephros is kidneys. That's where, figuratively, your innermost thoughts come from, right? So in the Greek thought, the anthropology, the study of man in the Greek, it doesn't match our English Western state of mind. So the head was not the controlling organ of the body, but could head mean one who has authority or rules? Yeah. Now check this out. Head, as here, right? It can mean the beginning point, like the headwaters of a river, right? It can also mean preeminence, like if somebody's the head of their class. Um, it can mean preeminence, like somebody's being elevated to have this great accomplishment, right? It can also mean first in position. He raced to the head of the line, right? It can mean position. Head can also mean prominence, right? Like the census, when in Numbers, when the Most High said, take a head count, pretty much, right? That's the prominence. The head, you take a head count because the head symbolizes the representation of the whole person. So let's check this out. We're gonna see if there's any indication that kafale means ruler or authority, right? And I know BA has, I believe BA has the Greek Septuagint, but if you look at the Greek Septuagint, um, there's definitely differences when they translate rosh, the Hebrew word for head, into kafale. Sometimes rosh, the Hebrew word for head, is translated into kafale. Sometimes rosh is translated to the word arche. Sometimes the word rosh is translated to exousia. So when you look at an English translation, you see the word head, Head. But when you go back into the lexicons and things of that nature, every time you see the word head in the Greek, sometimes it can say kafale, sometimes it can say exousia, sometimes it can say arche. This is where the Greek gets explicit at times, right? So a lot of the times, rosh is translated into arche, meaning leader, right? Leader, arche, right? There's a couple of instances, though, in the Septuagint where rosh is translated kafale, as I was saying, right? So in the Renewed Covenant, the New Testament, I know there's two predominant views. Um, there's two predominant views that look at head um, as Lord, rulership, or authority. However, there are other views, such as head in these other predominant areas in the text mean origin, source, and others believe it has more to do with preeminence or prominence, right? Now, a lot of the time, head is to mean physically the head. There are times when the word head is used metaphorically, and we're going to see that a lot of times it does mean preeminence or prominence, right? Prominence meaning it sticks out, it's the representative for the whole, or it's just at the tight or at the height, signifying position where somebody is in line, or things of that nature, right? So 10 of those times the head is used, the word head is used by Paul, right? First Corinthians 11, verse 3. Ephesians,
Oh.
yeah, we're not gonna read it. We're not gonna read it. But Ephesians chapter 1, verse 22 and 23. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 15 and 16. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 22 and 23. Right? Colossians chapter 1, verse 18. Colossians chapter 2, verses 9 to 10. Also, Colossians chapter 2, verses 18 and 19. And what we just read, First Peter chapter 2, verses 6 and 7. Right? It says, we're talking about the stone that the builders rejected, it became the head of the corner, right? The
Mm-hmm.
head of the corner. So in that case, we know the head of the corner did not mean leader, ruler, or authority. It signified this position, this initial source or foundation of the entire building. All right. You want to say something before I move on, BA or Sister Yahara?
Nah, I'm just a student myself. I'm enjoying this.
No,
Student yourself.
it's just how you break it down, the concept of head, and how you have these different meanings, and how certain words were added, like you said, kafale, not kafale, but azusia and arche. You know what I'm saying? So it's just amazing that when you bring this information out, and we apply it, and we look at these translations, this is what I would stress to everybody, that we actually get very familiar, like what Sis says, textual criticism, but let's look at it historically as well. That most definitely will help us um, with more solutions when it comes to these translations, and a lot of misunderstanding. Um, just because it was written back in ancient times doesn't mean that these people were 100% perfect. So translators and writers, they've made their errors, and we thank the Most High for allowing us to have this as our witness. But we have to most definitely search diligently and dig, because everything written has to be, now I want to say challenged, but everything written, you got to check it out. You have to investigate. That's one thing I would say about Ron Divine. That's one thing that he introduces. Do textual criticism. Look up words. Look up the history of what was going on from a social perspective. I respect the brother for pointing that out to me in his lessons. And same thing with Sis. She does the same thing. Get familiar with the context of what you are reading. Go right ahead, Sis.
Yeah, get familiar with these manuscripts. The Vaticanus, the Alexandrinus, the Receptus, all these different manuscripts, right? Look at the year that they were discovered. Look at the year they were said to have been written. Look at what was the original words in the papyri and these manuscripts, starting from second, third, fourth century AD. Look at look at them and compare them to the manuscripts that came out in the 12th century AD, in the 16th century AD. This is textual criticism, looking at words that were added, looking at words that were taken away. Look at what's called a palimpsest. These manuscripts, they were washed and rewritten on. That has a lot to do with textual criticism, and that's what I do as well. But this right here, what I was bringing up before. This is called the Greek New Testament SBL edition, Society for Biblical Literature. Pretty much, it actually goes to the earliest papyri and actually eliminates any added words that came after ninth, 12th, and 16th century AD. It gets to the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th century AD manuscript of words that were in the Koine Greek for the New Testament. Because
Wow.
guess what? Yeah, like when BA and I were presenting Yeshua's replies to first century rabbis on Debate Talk for You, I actually, if I'm remembering correct, um, Matthew chapter 5 verse 43, um, Yeshua didn't say bless those that persecute you.
And that was something I had to learn.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I didn't know. But
Wow.
I can be honest and I can tell people if there's things I know I know. There's things I don't know. I'm not ashamed to go around here and tell people I don't know.
Right.
We're still students. We're still learning.
Yep.
So when I saw that or when she pointed that
Hmm.
out to me, I was like, wow.
Right. Another one is I think First John chapter 5 verse 3, and then we'll continue. First John chapter 5 verse 3, or somewhere around there, when it talks about the three that bear record in heaven. Well, the three that
Yeah.
bear record in heaven are the water, the spirit,
And the blood.
um, and blood, not the Father,
Hmm.
Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Exactly. I would love to hear Christians explain their way out of that.
You know why? Because you have to look into textual criticism. Look at what words were added to fit an agenda after the 16th century AD. You
Mm.
know, when you look at words that are when you take away the words that are added, you see the dogma just go away. I just wanted
Yeah.
to add that real quick. You see the dogma go away, and
Go
I've
right
done that.
away.
Yeah, I've done that on my channel a lot.
Yeah.
Like with can women be pastors? I answered that through the text. I answered the question about the whole husband of one wife thing. The translation, the original text don't even say that. It's pretty much an idiom or a euphemism. There's
Yeah.
no personal pronouns for guys in there, and the word diakonos is a servant or a minister, and it's the same word used for Phoebe. Phoebe's a woman, right? So if
Mm.
you're talking about a diaconus or a servant or a minister, got to be the husband of one wife. Well, how is Phoebe gonna be the husband of one wife? She's not a man. She's not a male. You see what I mean? So this is why I go into the Greek text and look at what words were added and strip them all out. What words were added after the 16th century AD? Because again, this proves this proves that when you get rid of the added words, you get rid of the dogma. And all that I'm
Exactly.
saying here is on my channel. The rest of the videos on my channel, right?
And you know, and I'll just be real quick.
You good?
You can also destroy a lot of dogma with just a simple Strong's concordance for the King James onlys. Oh man,
Yeah.
you'll be. I mean, and I'm not saying rely on the concordance as your number one source, but man, that concordance it does come in handy. I'm telling you, it does.
Yeah. So I want to answer a question, BA. Gina, be direct. You said, so what did Yeshua say? I think you're talking about what we brought out from Matthew chapter 5 verse 43. Is that true? Okay, let's do that. Hey, BA, read Matthew chapter 5 verse 43 in the translation you have, and then I- and
Yep.
then I'll and then I'll make the comparison and show you what Yeshua don't say.
Let's see. Now, I think when I had read was reading from it around that time was my King James. I'm not
Okay.
familiar with this one, but let's
Mm-hmm.
see. You said 5 and 43. You said
Read 43 and 44. Let's do that. Yeah.
okay, and it reads. You have heard that it was said, You shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be children of your Father in heaven. For he makes his sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain on the righteous and on the unrighteous.
Okay. Hmm. All right. Hold on, let me see something here. Yep. All right. So I highlighted in pink here. I'm gonna hold it up here. Okay. And actually, you can get this SBL Greek New Testament in the Logos software, and you can also get it from My Sword on your phone and stuff like that. I'm gonna try to hold it up here, and then we'll continue. Right. So I'm gonna read that. Okay. So bear with me. All right. I'm still in the beginning stages of learning this biblical Greek, but verse 43 is right under my index finger right there. And then verse 44, what does it start? It starts right there and it ends right there. It's very short. You see that? You see that highlighted in pink? It's very short. So watch this. Verse
Wow.
44. You said what?
Wow.
Okay, so it says ego de lego himin. But I say to you, agapatetus ectrus. Love the ones who are your enemies, right? um Himon kai, um and you and the ones prasukeste prasukeste, and pray for the ones who pair is for, tone is the diokonton, himas. So pray who pair for tone the ones diokonton, um persecuting himas, you. So it doesn't say bless the ones cursing you. It doesn't say do well to the ones who detest you. So I just wanted to point that out. Shabbat shalom. So ego de lego himin agapate tus ectrus. But I say to you, pray for your enemies. Himon kai prosiu keste, and pray who pair for ton the diokonton, the ones threatening you. Himas, you. Isn't that what Paul reiterated too? Because the ones who persecute you, what? They don't know what they doing.
And can't that sometimes be your own family sometimes too?
Correct.
Especially when you walking in this walk?
Mm-hmm. Bebakasha,
Mhm.
Bebakasha, Gina B. Direct. And thank you guys for bearing with me through my beginnings of biblical Greek. All right. Sorry we had to do that sidebar. But
She being humble about that beginnings. She
you
been doing it
crazy.
for a while. Don't
I'm
let her
just
do
taking
that to y'all.
crazy. I'm just taking my time with it. It's very challenging. It's very challenging. I'll be over here sweating. You see all these bottles of water. Um,
I'll be over here sweating,
I'll be over here sweating.
trying to learn
Not
Greek, trying
trying
to
to
be in
learn
the Greek.
biblical Greek. Yes.
Wow, wow, wow.
Yes. I do. But
That's that work.
you know what got me into it? Learning what head meant, especially in First Corinthians chapter 11, verse 3. That's a lot what started my studies in the New Testament, especially when it came to these so-called misogynistic texts of Paul's letters. That's what had me wanting to learn biblical Greek. A lot of people tried to discourage me from learning it. They was like, all you need is the Hebrew. I was like, shoot, nah. All right. All right, so we're gonna look at let's see. We're gonna look at a little bit of what head is, if it's to mean origin or source in certain passages, right? So um your head is the life-giving source that pretty much drives or animates the rest of the body, and the body grows out of the head. Right now, I know you heard me talking about this woman a lot, Catherine Kroger. Right, she wrote in the Priscilla papers that head can refer to what we talked about before, the beginning of something like headwaters, the headwaters of a river, the beginning point of something, right? And it was a person in Ephesus. One of the writers, the writers in Ephesus, said that head was the source of life, of source of light for life for the whole body. So, like a father was the source of life for his son. So the head or kafale is like one's parents because the parent was the what? Source for the one who gave life, right? Now, Catherine Kroger, she gives this um commentary from Augustine's commentary on Galatians chapter 5, verse 22 and 23. Watch this. She says, the Apostle Paul, when he wishes to commend the fruit of the Spirit against the works of the flesh, puts them at the head. The fruit of the Spirit is love, he said, and then the rest, as springing up from the head, are twined together. There are joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faith, perseverance, self control, and charity. Charity is love, right? Now, remember, there's about, like we said, 10 or 11 passages where the head, um, where the head is rendered as a metaphor, a figurative part, right? Ephesians chapter 4, verses 15 to 16, and Colossians chapter 2, verses 18 to 19, talking about um, the head, uh, Christ, right? We grow up in every way into Him who is the head, Christ as being the head, right? Colossians chapter 2, verse 18. Verse 19 says, not holding fast to the head, from whom the whole body, nourished and held together by its ligaments and sinews, grows with a growth that is from Elohim, right? So we see physically and metaphorically head, but here we have what? Metaphor, head, right? But Ephesians, it seems that Ephesians has the idea of head in mind, this idea of head in mind as growing up in the head, right? But that's very similar to our notion of sinking down into our roots. Roots is the source from where we spring up from, right? So in some cases, the references, the fictive family references to head appear to be related to the Greek anthropological meanings of head as life-giving source. But this metaphor doesn't seem to apply in other New Testament passages, right? So what we're saying is head, kephale, can sometimes mean origin or source, but you have to look at the context of the passage in which it's rendered, right? So you still there with me, BA and Sister Yahara?
Present.
Okay, okay. I'm still waiting on you to get the Arius Didymus, the
Okay.
information you was gonna break out.
I'm
You
on
can
it.
get
I-
you on it. Okay, okay.
I'm
No,
I'm
no,
I'm
no
on it. I'm
pressure, no
sorry. I'm
pressure.
being mommy over here. My daughter is
Oh,
not letting
okay,
up
okay.
on me. She's going.
Ah,
She's
okay.
going on me. Yep.
It's one of them nights. Don't even trip, sis. Don't even trip. All right. So now we're gonna look at head that can mean the symbol for the whole or preeminence in status, right? So when you have head as the representative for the whole, that's symbolically what it means, because the head is attached to the head is attached to a body, and the head pretty much it symbolizes the status being at the top because the head is at the top, right? Um, the head is the most prominent and distinctive part of the body, right? So in the Greek culture, metaphorically speaking, the person being the head of others, it can refer to the quality with regard to the rest of the people, where you stand out in position, because it's a distinct part of your body. It sticks out, it stands out, right? um two continuums we can use to measure someone's prominence, which someone sticks out above others, are what? Power and status. But power and status are not the same. Now watch this. Bill Gates, he's emblematic because he sticks out above others in the dimensions of power and status, right? But in an honor and shame society, like the Greco-Roman world, the two concepts are very distinguished, right? So prominence in power authority was indicated by the word arche. Remember I said sometimes when the word head or rosh is translated from the Hebrew to the Greek, sometimes it's arche. So prominence and power authority is what? Arche, not kephale. Arche, what? It is the starting point, port of origination, or point of commencement. Now, prominence and status was indicated by kephale, right? Prominence and status is kephale. So the head is the visible and distinct part of the body that stands out because it's also at the type. It's at the top. It's at the height. It's at the summit, right? And it is also preeminent. It's also preeminent, right? In its position, you see it first before you see anything, right? And the head is also what? The source, because that's where the blood flows from, right? The source, right? So the terms arche and kephale, what? They do overlap sometimes, right? But check this out. Catherine Kroger. And Catherine Kroger, she is the woman that I did she's the woman who wrote the book that I did the series on called I Suffer Not a Woman. And she gives the greatest explanation for what First Timothy chapter 2, verse 12 actually means. Her husband wrote the book too. So it's pretty much Richard and Catherine Kroger, right? And we're going to talk about some things that Timothy says later in part 7, right? But Catherine Kroger says this: Zeus was born first, Zeus last, god of the bright bolt. Zeus is the head, kephale. Zeus the middle. From Zeus all things are made. So on 3 different occasions, right? Zeus is the beginning, arche. Zeus the middle. Zeus, from Zeus all things are made. So Zeus, this is her quoting this, right? This is Catherine Kroger quoting this. She's saying Zeus is both first in a sequence or a process, and he's the source of life, kephale, right? Therefore, both arche and kephale are descriptive of him. But when the Greeks wished to talk about him definely, about who's first in rank with authority and power, they were predisposed to use arche. When they wanted to indicate somebody preeminent in status or the first in a position of status, somebody that sticks out, somebody or that which like the qualities emanate from as a function, they use kephale. I hope y'all getting the differences
Wow.
just a little bit, right? So Hebrew again was metaphorically and translated as its literal equivalent kephale in the Septuagint. Rosh, the Hebrew word rosh, head. There were times, like I said, where rosh, head for the Hebrew, when it was translated into the Greek, it would mean kephale, or it would be translated into arche or translated into exousia. There were 3 different distinctions for which head was indicated, right? So now we're
Come
going to
on.
talk. Go ahead. Go ahead.
And I was like, come on now. Man, that's just like how they say how we say today, how we have the same, we make up our own, you know, way of saying things, but it means like there, and there.
Mm-hmm.
Because there can mean there, it can mean over there, it can
Right.
mean belonging to somebody. It's just different ways of what it's meant to be,
Right.
what context we're using it in. So
Exactly. Exactly, Sister Yahara. There. There means a place, right?
Yep.
Their means possessive, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
And there, they apostrophe
Apostrophe
re
re. Mm-hmm.
is a contraction, right? Meaning they are, right?
Mm-hmm. Come on. Come on now.
Right? Good that you. Thank you for bringing that out. See? All right. So when we look at the translation of rosh for head to kafale, the exceptions in the Septuagint, well, in a lot of cases, like I said, the word rosh, um, when the authors were using rosh, the Hebrew word rosh, translating it into kafale metaphorically, it was not translated as kafale, right? So when rosh wanted to be used metaphorically, it was not translated to kafale. That's the majority of the cases. The cases. So rosh, the head, it usually indicates a chief or ruler, and that would be what? Arche or exousia. I keep saying this over and over again because I want you guys to go back and look this stuff up, right? But what about the handful of cases that what about the handful of cases that the Greek translators do use kafale as a metaphor, right? What about them? I'm not going to read all of these tonight, but you can go back and look at Deuteronomy chapter 28, verses 12 to 13, Deuteronomy 28, verses 43 to 44, Isaiah chapter 9, verses 14 to 16. Those have to do with head and tail, right? So when the word head or kafale is used there in the Septuagint, right? It's pretty much about some physical head as being opposed to tail. There's nothing about ruling over others with the meaning of head over there in those passages, right? Kafale. What about 1 Kings chapter 21 verses 11 to 12, right? That's the story of Naboth when Jezebel had Naboth sit at the head of the table, right? That's referring to what? A prominent physical location in the congregation or in the assembly, right? What about Isaiah chapter 7, verses 8 to 9? Excuse me, Isaiah chapter 7, verses 7 to 9, right? So this is about Isaiah reassuring King Ahaz of Judah that his alliance between Syria, Aram, or Ephraim, Israel won't prevail against Judah. Now Damascus, what? That's the capital of Syria, with Rezin as a king, and the capital of Israel was Samaria, with Rahaliah as the king, right? So the idea is that Damascus, right, being called the head, the kafale there, is the prominent representation of Aram, right? Which Aram is summed up, and the people of Syria are symbolically summed up in Rezin. That's what that seems to be what the connotation intends in that verse, right? Verse 8 in Isaiah chapter 7 says when the body is what? Decapitated, it loses the head. And what gets lost when you lose the head? You lose your identity, right? You can't identify somebody without your head. I watch a lot of crime shows, a lot of Fatal Attraction, Forensic Files, and all this stuff, right? I watch a lot of that stuff. And when you have the body gone, you pretty much can identify the person, right? So what is it saying? This passage, Israel, uh, not only will Israel be defeated, but they're going to lose their head and they're going to lose their identity as a people. So the Assyrians, they take the Israelites off to captivity, leaving only a remnant, and they vanish as a people who can be identified. So the idea of a chief or a ruler here with the head kafale is not sustainable. Okay. All right. There you go. All right. What
Yeah,
about
I'm back.
you
Having some
back?
technical difficulties.
Man, a lot of technical difficulties tonight, but we getting it in. All right. So, what about Jeremiah chapter 31, verses 7 to 9? I ain't going to read this, but this is for you to go back and read it, right? So, in this passage, Jeremiah chapter 31, verses 7 to 9, right? There's nothing in here that's about Israel ruling other nations. It just says Israel has become preeminent above other nations. In verse 9 gives the clue. Says, with weeping they shall come, and with consolations I will lead them back. I will let them walk by brooks of water in a straight path in which they shall not stumble. For I have become a father to Israel, and Ephraim is my firstborn. Right? Preeminent. You're chosen to do this task. You're mandated, so you're the initiator. You're the first to do this task here, right? Preeminent. All right. Let's see. All right, Sister Yahara, you must
Sorry
got
about
some
that. Oh,
juice. You must have got some juice, huh?
yes. I'm sorry. I was running around behind my daughter so much. I know my phone clicked and said low battery, and then it just ended
Yeah,
ended after that.
yeah, yeah. Okay. All right, we're gonna keep going. Let's see. Let's try to get in like 20, 25 more minutes. 25 more minutes. Are y'all good on time? Y'all good on time? Whoever's listening, who's ever watching now, right? Let me know if you're good on time. Because there's a stopping point I do want to get to, but I think we're like about 4 sections away from the stopping point. All right. All right. We're looking at the Hebrew word rosh, the times in the Septuagint when it's translated to kafale, right? That's what we're looking at. Let me just reiterate that. All right. Because I'm not reading all of these, but it's for you to go back. For you to go back into, right? So First Kings chapter 8, verse 1. So the heads, rosh, of the tribes Mata, right? Mate is the word translated for rod or staff, figuratively as what? A tribe. Now, when the word mate is used literally to mean rod or staff, it's always translated as rabdos in the Septuagint, right? Rabdos is never used for mate when it figuratively signifies a tribe, except here in 1 Kings 8, verse 1. Why? Why? Because the choice of the literal equivalent in translation for mate would necessitate the literal translation of rosh, head, as well. So we're talking literally here about the head of a staff, as in that part of the staff which occupies the top, the height, or the summit, the highest point. So the head of the staff does not rule the rest of the staff, but it's the most prominent feature at the top height of the staff. It's prominence. Doesn't have anything to do with authority or rule, right? This one right here. I know this one is the kicker. Judges chapter 10, verses 18. Um, I'll read that verse. It says, this is the NRSV version. Actually, no, let me read the scriptures ISR version of it. Judges chapter 10, verse 18. All right. It says, Then they went through the wilderness and around the land of Edom and the land of Moab and came to the east side of the land of Moab, and they encamped beyond Arnon. But they did not enter the border of Moab, for Arnon was the border of Moab. Oh, let me see. Okay, let's see. You there, BA? Okay, you
Yeah.
there. Okay. I think I'm reading the incorrect verse, but let's see. Oh, okay. No, 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 no. Verses. Let me see. Am I reading the correct verse? The one I want to get to, it says the commanders of the people of Gilead said to one another, "Who will begin the fight against the Ammonites? He shall be head over all the inhabitants of Gilead." I think I need to read. Oh, because I was reading in chapter 11. That's why. Shanti. Get in Judges chapter 10, verse 18. Okay, here we go. I'm reading it. Okay, ISR. You said only 25 minutes, Sister Marie. You want me to go longer? Okay, we'll see. All right, so this is Judges 10, verse 18. Excuse me for reading Judges 11:18. Okay, this is Judges 10:18. And the people, the heads of Gilead, said to each other, "Let the man who is the first to fight against the children of Ammon be head over all the inhabitants, all the inhabitants of Gilead." Right? And then I'm gonna read Judges chapter 11, 4 to 11. This one I'm gonna do from the ISR. I'm gonna read this. So says, and it came to be sometime later that the children of Ammon fought against Israel, and it came to be when the children of Ammon fought against Israel that the elders of Gilead went to bring Yiftach out of the land of Tob. And they said to Yiftach, "Come, and you shall be our commander, and let us fight against the children of Ammon." But Yiftach said to the elders of Gilead, "Did you not hate me and drive me from my father's house? Why have you come to me now when you are in trouble?" And the elders of Gilead said to Yiftach, "That is the reason we have turned to you, that you shall go with us and fight against the children of Ammon and be our head over all the inhabitants of Gilead." And Yiftach said to the elders of Gilead, "If you take me back home to fight against the children of Ammon and Yahweh gives them to me, am I to be your head?" And the elders of Gilead said to Yiftach, "Yahweh is witness between us if we do not do according to your words." Then Yiftach went with the elders of Gilead, and the people set him over them. That's what the translation says, as head and commander. And Yiftach spoke all his words before Yahweh in Mitzpah. Let me get my door, let my dog in. My dog being lonely right now.
Oh, that's Diamond.
Yeah, Diamond the dog.
Yeah, you know me and Shine, we brother and sister, so I know what's up.
Yeah, Diamond the dog. Okay, actually, let me pause right here, BA. Let me take the dog out real quick, and then you can fill in some air for me real quick. I'm gonna just look up the word here in Judges chapter 4, verse 11, kafale. Let me see. While I take her, yeah, cause she's gotta go. That's the I gotta go look. Judges 11 and 11. You notice here in the concordance numbers. I don't pretty much read the Strong's concordance definition for kafale because it gives a definition of the word that comes after 600 AD. But notice, um,
Yeah, the Darius does the same thing.
yeah, yeah,
Um, yeah, but I got my Septuagint on deck.
okay. So it says, uh, the people, the people establish him Yitzhak. Um, the people establish him as kafale kai s. um hegomenon, hegomenon, right? So why would the if the word kafale in there meant leader, why would it have to say leader or authority twice? Fill in that air for me, and then when I come back, we gonna deep delve dive into it.
Most
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, she didn't lay it down. Okay, you ain't got to go.
definitely.
Okay, she done laid down. Let's get to it.
Facts. Let's get to it.
I'm the only one in the house right now. I got two dogs. Um so kafale here, right? Kafale here. Now, remember I was talking about earlier manuscripts. Um, there's three main manuscripts of the Septuagint, right? There's the Vaticanus, Sinaiticus, and the Alexandrinus, right, from the 5th century A.D. But the Codex Vaticanus and Sinaiticus is 4th century A.D., right? But check this out: in the Alexandrian text of these verses, Rosh, the Hebrew word Rosh, is translated as Kafale, whereas in the Vatican text, it has Archon. You see what be going on here? That's why we get into textual criticism, right? But check this out. Here, the people of Israel, they didn't need a ruler. They did not need to have somebody in authority over them as much as they need somebody to represent them before King Ammon, and if necessary, to lead them into battle. So, what did the verse say? Pretty much, Kafale, they needed someone to begin to fight. They needed someone to go first against the sons of Ammon. So as head, he would go first into the fight. He would go first into the fight. Now, when you get into the Greek grammar, you see kafale is followed by a dative word for all the inhabitants of Gilead. It doesn't say epi. Epi is over, but it says ace. The preposition ace is there, right? So kafale is in direct apposition to a word meaning ruler or leader. So this apposition, what? It neither accounts for the unexpected use of kafale there, nor does it elicit from it the sense of one who has authority over. They needed somebody to represent them to go first, right? So if kafale in these passages, what I just read, doesn't have the same sense of one who goes first or prominent, then it should probably be regarded as a traditional anomaly in some of these other texts, some of the manuscripts that we see. Right? It could be it could be a traditional deviation that the scribe wanted to render, and that's why you have to go back and do these comparisons, textual criticism, when you look at these different manuscripts and what time they were discovered and what time they were written, right? So pretty much, there's evidence here that says kafale to mean head as ruling over does not exist.
Exactly.
It don't exist.
And we're looking into the scriptures. See, now we in the law and the prophets now. For those who are not aware, we're in the law and the prophets now, and everything has been established by the prophets, the law and the prophets. Everything has been established here first. So as you can see, we see this idea in the law and the prophets, and the most definitely back up sis the Septuagint right here to confirm everything she's talking about.
Hmm. So now we're gonna see sometimes that head can act as a function, a representation, or an elevation,
Hmm.
centrality of status, a position, right? A position like not in rank, ruling over, or authority. You know what I mean? It just my head sits at the top, and then my arms flow, and my body flows, and my legs flow. You know what I mean? That's function, representation, elevation, and centrality of status. The location,
Mm.
right? Location. So, what can we say about head as a figurative meaning in the Greek? Well, what we saw is head kafale is not used to signify ruling over or having authority over, but it is used, um, you know, what we just saw when it talks about people who do have some type of rule or authority, right? It doesn't signify the action. The head kafale does not signify an action to rule or to have authority over something, but it says, hey, these people with some sort of authority, these people with some sort of authority or rulership at times because of their location or because if they're going first, then it would use kafale when it's going to signify what type of action they're going to do, right? To go first or be this origin or be this source or to be this representative to stand out, right? So head indicates the magnitude of the quality, that something is greater or higher, but it's not the quality itself. So the head figuratively is the summit, the height of the body, and the location, the position that it sits in. It doesn't have anything to do with what controls or rules the body, not in the Greek thought, right? The Greek thought, what ruled, what came from the innermost thoughts is the kidneys or the nephros, right? So head could be used in three different ways, right? Three different ways to perceive what the physical head does, right? It has something to do with function, representation, and elevation. So function, according to the Greeks, right? The anatomy of the head, it provides life. It's the life-giving source that nurtures the rest of the body, and everything springs up from the head, right? And then representation, right? Representation, because the head is the part that sticks out as the most visible and distinguished, right? It identifies the whole person. Because hell, if you take the head off of somebody, you probably can't identify them, when their body's decapitated, right? And then elevation. Elevation, what? Location. My head is at the highest point on my body. It's at the top. It's at the height. So that signifies what? Prominence, preeminence, right? So what did Yeshua say? In a world, in a social climate where status and the obsession of status and domination is everything. um you have the patron client relationship. Remember the patron client relationship? I think that was from part 2 or part 3. But you have grace, goddess. Grace is not necessarily a biblical term, but it meant favor. Okay, you pretty much as a patron did favors to your clients and had your clients forever indebted to you, and pretty much how you moved up in status and rank in the social world of Rome. It was pretty much how many favors you provided as a patron that gave you status. So Yeshua say to us, right? Yeshua is our patron. The Most High Yahweh is our patron, right? And we are His clients, right? We're supposed to actually uh, uh, render this faith and obedience as a thank you to receiving favor or grace from the Most High Yahweh. Yeshua said, hey, your obsession with status, being a patron, giving out favors just to keep somebody obedient to you, we're supposed to disregard that need, that obsession for status. The way you get rewarded is by what? Being obedient to the Most High Yahweh, serving one another, putting others before yourself. So the status in the Most High Yahweh's kingdom, the Most High Yahweh's household, is to what? Serve the Most High Yahweh, be obedient, serve the people. Sister Marie, you. All right. Oh my gosh. All right. We're going to read one more passage. and then we're gonna stop for the night. All right. Okay, Yahara, you in the comment section. Why you in the comment section? Okay. You gonna come back into the live, or you being a mom gotta take precedence right now? If you being a mom gotta take precedence right now, I understand. Okay. So we'll look at head right now in First Peter chapter 2, verses 6 to 8. Uh, and then we'll wrap up the lesson for tonight. All right. Okay, cool. All right. BA, you still there? Or you checked out? Or stepped away? Okay. He might have stepped away.
I'm sorry, sis. I had to step away real quick.
Okay,
I
no
got I got
problem.
a
No
lot
problem.
going on. A couple of my kin folks is over here.
Okay. Well, we gonna have you read this passage, and we're gonna wrap it up. That's a lot. That's a lot going on tonight. Technical difficulties. My cousin was texting me. I had to text my husband for them, and I'm like, okay, back and forth, and then
Yeah, I got my little brother and his wife. They're here, man. So I'm
okay,
back and forth, moving around.
okay, all right,
Sorry
all right.
about that. Deeply
Hey,
apologize about that.
do not apologize, BA. We got families. People understand we got families. We got things going on. Hell, I had Diamond come in here because she was lonely. You know what I mean? I thought I had to take her out, you know, to potty, but no, she over here clean. She over here not
Want
now.
to be your mama.
Yeah, she want to be with the mommy. That's what she. But all right. So you got to step away, BA.
I'm back. I'm good. I'm back.
Okay. Can you read First Peter chapter 2? Uh, we gonna read this to close it out. I know you read it before, but we're gonna have you read it again. We're gonna point some things
All
out.
right.
First
I'm
Peter
gonna get
chapter
right
2,
to it. Watch
verses
that.
6. Yep, verses 6 to 8. And thank y'all for bearing with us tonight with all the crazy things going on tonight. And I know, like, next week is, for all the superstitious people. Next Friday,
What's going
next
on next Friday?
next Friday is the 13th for all the superstitious people. But
Oh, that's how you know I've been out the circle. I don't even follow that no more.
man, I gotta follow the calendar, right? Because I'll get lost in my days, be able to all this traveling and stuff. I have to like
Yeah.
my
So
days.
First Peter chapter 2, what verse?
Read verses 6 to 8.
6 to 8, and it reads,
Mm-hmm.
"For it stands in Scripture. See, I am laying in Zion a stone, a cornerstone, chosen and precious,
Mm,
and whoever believes in him will not be put to shame. To you, then, who believe, he is precious. But for those who do not believe, the stone that the builders rejected has become the very head of the corner, and a stone that makes them stumble,
mm.
and a rock that makes them fall. They stumble because they disobey the word as they were destined to do."
All right. So there's three type of stones that signify the Messiah in the text. There's a cornerstone, a capstone, and a stumbling stone, right? A cornerstone was usually large and at like the northeast of a building to begin a foundation, right? That's that cornerstone. Then the capstone is a large stone that's placed at the top of it, top of that at the corner where two walls come together and join, right? And the capstone, that's the final stone that's laid. So what does it symbolize? It symbolizes prominence because it's at the top. It symbolizes completeness, right? So the issue is we got to sort out which stone, which regard to cornerstones and capstones are in the biblical references, right? So pretty much cornerstone, eben pinna, in the Hebrew, in the Greek is akraganias, extreme pinnacle, right? Uh, or angle in a corner. So let me say that again. Cornerstone, eben pinna, in the Hebrew, it means a stone plus an angle, right? In the Greek, cornerstone would be uh, akraganias. Akron and Ganias, extreme, something that's at the extremity, the outer, and the pinnacle, plus something at an angle or a corner, right? Or lithogonios, cornerstone. Now, a capstone is rosh, pina. Rosh's head, pina is what? That angle or that corner. And then in the Greek, the capstone would be what? Kephale gonias, head of the corner, right? Head of the corner. So notice here, we ain't talking about no rulership or authority here. We're talking about this capstone and this cornerstone, right? So eben means stone in the Hebrew, pina means angle, right? Or pinnacle. So figuratively, the pinnacle or that angle, it can mean a chieftain, as we see in Judges chapter 20 and 1 Samuel chapter 14. But the context of those passages make it clear that it's talking about a physical foundation, right? A physical foundation. It ain't got nothing to do with ruler or authority, right? Now in Zechariah chapter 4, verses 6 to 10, you can go back and look at this. But in Zechariah, we see the importance of the capstone or the keystone, right? Zerubbabel, when he lays the foundation for the temple, right? This prophecy, it declares that there's not going to be anything to prevent him from placing that capstone there, indicating what? The completion or the wholeness of the temple. You can go back and you read Psalms 118, verses 20 to 23. I'm not going to read all of this tonight. But in Psalms 118, verse 22, it says, the stone, Eben, that the builders rejected has become the what? The Rosh Pinah, chief cornerstone. In the Septuagint, it says what? Kephale Ganias, chief cornerstone. So the head of the corner is indicating what? The keystone or the capstone that holds something in place or position.
Can
Of
we
a
read that from
large
the
stone,
Septuagint?
if you want. Don't
This is
need to.
Isaiah chapter. Okay.
Yeah, we don't need to.
All right.
But yeah, it's the head of the corner, right? It signifies that capstone or that keystone there that's placed there on top of the other stones to signify completeness of the temple. When something's complete, guess what? Something can have honor, glory, right? I'm not going to read it. Ephesians chapter 2, verses 19 to 20. Uh, it says Yeshua there is what? The cornerstone, the acrogaios, the cornerstone. So Yeshua being the physical foundation cornerstone, right? This is the foundation that the rest of the living stones can be built upon, right? That makes sense?
It makes most definitely makes sense. And if Yeshua is the stone that the builders rejected, and
Mm-hmm.
also the stumbling block,
Mm,
the Father sent him. So who is the actual stumbling block? The
right,
Father.
right.
Oh, don't say that. Yeah, I said it.
Yeah. And I'm glad you said the stumbling stone. That's the third stone, right? Because we talked about the cornerstone, then we talked about the capstone. Now, what's the stumbling stone? For those who don't receive the word and won't obey, right? People stumble or trip over that. That stone.
Exactly.
Yeshua's that, right?
Yep. And he was sent by the Father. So the
Right,
Father is the original. He is the
right.
stumbling block.
Yeah. And so that's a reference to Isaiah chapter 8, right? You know, you're
Hmm.
Yeshua came in and frustrated the plans of man trying to build his own temple, right? And this stumbling stone is an obstacle to their agenda.
Exactly. That's why we can read in Peter. I believe I can't remember if that's Peter chapter 3. First Peter chapter 3, where it says the heavens, man's social structure will melt away. The
Mhm.
elements will be set on fire.
Yep. And actually,
Exactly.
I'm glad you talked about that because that's what we're going to get into next video. Next
Yeah.
video and final video,
most,
okay?
most deaf.
Right? We're going to keep talking about this head, right? Head synopsis. So, what do we see? Head does not mean leader, ruler, or authority. When you look at the New Testament text from a first century AD Greek culture perspective, and beyond, like and before with the Septuagint, because we looked at what Judges chapter 10, and we looked at Judges chapter 11. When Rosh, the Hebrew word Rosh for head is translated into kafale, it doesn't even mean leader, ruler, or authority there. It means somebody who is going to go first or be the representative to fight. So the head or the pater familias would be Yahweh, right? And Yahweh is paterfamilias or head. What would Yahweh be? The representative, somebody who gives the source, who is the source of life, who is the origin, who's the beginning, right? He's that head. Now you get it? Somebody who's prominent, the representative. He sticks out. Does that make sense?
Most deaf.
So guess what? The household codes in Ephesians 5, Colossians 3, we're going to get to those. First Peter chapter 2 and First Peter chapter 3. Guess what those household codes are? Those are Yahweh's household codes. And they are a stark opposite from the Greco-Roman household codes given by Aristotle, Arius Didymus, given by Gaius Octavianus or Augustus Caesar at that time. Yahweh's household codes are a stark difference. So guess what Paul was doing? Paul was teaching written Torah. He just helped bring it to a
Exactly.
more comprehensible meaning to a people in an area where the social, political, economic climate,
Social structure.
right? Social structure was what, BA?
Say it again. Repeat the
I
question.
said you said social structure.
Exactly. The social structure. And see, and one thing about those people in that day, they understood because they knew what was going on. They were well aware of what was going on in their social structure or in the society that they lived in. It's not like today. A lot of people in this social structure, they're not aware of how the system operates. But back then, Paul made a lot of sense to those people because they were very aware of what was going on in the land regions where they lived at. So that's why Paul's letters are hard to understand for a lot of us in this modern day era because we choose to just read Paul's letters and just be like, okay, Paul was against Torah. No, he was not against the Torah. Paul was dealing with a whole lot of rhetoric that was going on in that present day and age. And that's time. And one thing about a lot of Hebrews, a lot of believers in this modern day era, it's very important that we understand the social perspective that Paul was coming from. No, no dogma. We're talking about the social perspective, the way that the people lived politically, socially, religiously as well. Paul was addressing a lot of issues. Me and Ashanti have been bringing out the imperial cult worship, and guess what? We still don't get any responses to that. None at all. And guess what we're going to be doing very soon? We're going to take a deeper look at the sages and the rabbis. And we're going to look at the oral traditions that Paul was dealing with. Paul never spoke against the written Torah, was given to the Most High. Well, which was given by the Most High, gave it to Moses to mediate to Israel. That's Torah. The oral traditions, when it comes to the first century AD, historically, the oral traditions became the norm. It overshadowed what the Most High had gave to Moses. And a lot of individuals in this community are being either very dishonest or they don't have a blue in the hell clue what they're talking about. And Most High willing, as time progresses, me and Ashanti, and right now we're in the middle of doing a deep study on the oral traditions historically. And I'm going to give you a hint. We're going to go back to the days of Ezra and Nehemiah. Most High willing, we bring that out. And when we do bring it out, may those who are seeking be edified. We don't do this for popularity. We do this because it's been revealed, and and now it's about time to bring this stuff out. Nobody else is dealing with it, so it's time to bring it out and to edify. We're not here to entertain. We're here to edify. Go ahead, sis.
Okay, I'll finally let Diamond out. Yeah, thank you for saying that. Paul is definitely talking to a people in a land where they were under Roman colonial rule, like BA said, under imperial cult worship. And Paul had to teach them how to navigate in this land, still having to follow some of the laws of the land, but not go against the laws of the land. Excuse me, but not go against the written Torah that some of the laws of the land, you know, would nullify, so to speak. But Paul taught them how to conduct themselves in this newfound faith, right? In this new kingdom here to come, which is the household of the Most High Yahweh. Telling them that, hey, in the household of Yahweh, there is no hierarchy. Woman, slave, you're not inferior. Woman, slave, by your conduct, your behavior, your choice to be a servant to one another, your choice to be a servant to husbands or masters, guess what? It wins them over. Not to put you as a second class person in the caste system. Hey, newfound converts to the Most High Yahweh through Yeshua. I know in this culture there's a an obsession with status and domination. But check this out. The way to get to the top is to humble yourself and be a servant. Have some humility. Like John 13, Yeshua washed his disciples' feet, right? You are to have that heart, that mind, that soul, that spirit, right? BA has probably said enough. uh, Thank you for dealing with us through all the technical difficulties tonight. This is wow. This is crazy. But the word of the Most High went forth, right? Um, I want to say I love y'all. I love y'all with the love of the Most High. May everything we said here provoke you to go back, seek, study, pray on it, meditate on it, take it to the Most High Yahweh, ask for the Most High Yahweh to send the Holy Spirit, the set apart breath or wind, to bring you into all truth, a sound, righteous conclusion. May this provoke you to grow closer to the Most High, to sustain that personal relationship with the Most High. May this encourage, edify, uplift, and build you. Something that can something that can be applied in your everyday walk, life, journey, right? As your relationship with the Father grows close, may your relationship with your brothers and sisters as children of the Most High Yahweh grow close and tight as well. We're supposed to have that sibling love, that sibling intimacy, right? Let there not be any division among us. Let us understand that we have an equal status and function to come to a common goal, which is to have the Most High's name glorified here on earth, right? Yahweh is the pater familias, the head, the source of life, the origin, the beginning, the representative of the household, that loving, compassionate father, not a tyrant, not somebody who wants to force you into something, not somebody who wants to just control over you with the hard hand. Nah, the Most High Yahweh is very nurturing, very nurturing. The household of Yahweh, first century AD household codes. There is no misogyny in the text of Paul's letters. None at all.
And I got my sis back on this one. And we've been dealing with this for quite some time. And no responses. We're not looking for no one to battle us on it. We just want to have civil conversation about it.
Yep.
And since we're dealing with this, we've introduced this into the community for what, last year and a half, 2 years,
Yeah,
and
last couple.
not one response, not one. The household codes is another section of imperial code worship.
Yep.
So the thing is that we're addressing these things. We have sources, and we keep sharing it. And guess what? Now one so-called scholar has addressed it. They're just being quiet. You want to know why? Because they don't know what they're talking about. They never looked into it. It's not convenient to discuss this. It's not
Woo.
convenient to debate this. It's not. So, like I said, we're only here to edify. No more games.
Mm,
If you want to come build with us, come build. We're only here to edify. We're not here for entertainment. There's
that's
too many
right.
people online doing that. Too many.
Yep. That's how you know who's really Israel and who's not. That's how you know who really has ears to hear and who does not. That's how you know who's truly servants of the Most High Yahweh and who's not. That's how you know. Everybody out here talking about they Israel in Israel. Everybody out here dressing like a Power Ranger, cussing people out, talking about I know this, that, and the third. Everybody ain't necessarily Israel. You can wear the longest skirt, you can have the tightest head wrap. That don't mean you Israel.
Israel, like Paul said, inward.
That's right. You can keep
That's
every feast
Israel.
day there is. You can keep every
Yeah.
feast day there is out here.
And notice how none of us on here are calling ourselves Israel. We're gonna allow the Most High to put that on us.
Yeah. I call myself Israel though. You know why?
And there's nothing wrong with that.
There
You know
ain't
what I'm
nothing wrong
saying?
with it.
But
I just got to keep explaining it. I'm I'm
it's
I'm
all good.
I'm, I'm explaining it here. Israel. I call myself Israel. You know why?
And
I don't call myself Israel due to man's definition. Israel is three words in one. You know what it is? It's Yod, the consonant Yod, the word Sarah, and then the word El.
no, you
Yod,
didn't say
El.
that,
Yes, I did.
Sarah.
Sarah.
Oh, that's
Did. Yod, Sarah, and El. And guess what you get from Yod, Sarah, and El?
Ooh.
Yes, Yisrael. Yisrael. Do you hear it? Yisrael. Yod means he. Sarah means to contend, wrestle, prevail, and rule, right? El means Elohim, God. So what does Israel mean? Yod, Sarah, and El. It means he who strives, wrestles, prevails, and rules with
Ooh.
Elohim. I call myself Israel all day. It's an action.
I'm going to me personally. I'm gonna let the Most High dictate that about myself.
Man,
I'm not going to call myself Israel. I will no longer call myself Israel because I see the concept of what it means. So as far as me personally, I'm just a regular believer. No more titles. I'm just a believer. If I'm Israel, that's the Most High's call, not mine, and not nobody else that goes by that name. who claims to go by that name. Me, I'm just gonna let the Most High call it for how He sees it, and I'm fine with that.
No doubt. I'm calling myself Israel because that's what I strive to do every day. The Most High allowed me to wake up breathing. You know what
Mm.
I'm talking about? That's me. You know what I mean? That's why I learned. That's why I learned Hebrew grammar. That's why I learned Hebrew grammar. Right? That's why you hear me say Israel and not Yasharala. And no offense to people who say Yasharala. I know they know what they know right now until they get to this point. I say Israel because I understand Hebrew grammar. Right? I know y'all see this book behind me. This is where I learn. I'm still learning. Right? This is not to brag and to boast. This is to encourage. I don't have no high IQ. I just be pressing my way through because I love the Most High Yahweh like that. Pressing my way through. So, with that being said, we ain't gonna keep y'all. Sister Shanti, I love y'all. I love y'all with the love of the Most High. Ko tehelim ko kaboa hatiferes le Yahweh Eloheinu abinu. All praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, our Elohim, our power, our Father. Let me close out with the Aaronic blessing. This is Numbers chapter 6, verses 24 to 26. Yebarechacha Yahweh wa yishmaraka. Ya'er Yahweh panav elecha v'huneka. Yisa Yahweh panav elecha wa yasem laka shalom. May Yahweh bless you and keep you. May Yahweh make his face shine on you and show you favor. May Yahweh lift up his face towards you. That means accept you and give you shalom. May he give you shalom, peace, completeness, wholeness. Y'all have a good and rest of y'all Shabbat. Love y'all. Shabbat shalom.
Most deaf. Shalom.